Okay, class, now we're starting on section 2.2, adding signed numbers, or we could say adding integers. Section A, adding signed numbers. When adding, positive values can be visualized as steps to the right on the number line, while negative values can be visualized as steps to the left on the number line. Now it says rules for adding signed numbers. Decide whether to add or subtract. Same sign, you add them. Opposite signs, you subtract them. And also one other thing, you keep the sign. So if they have the same sign for number 1 here, this goes with number 1. You will keep the sign. So if the same sign, you add them together and keep the sign. Step 2, decide whether the answer is positive or negative. The answer takes the sign of the larger number. That's basically dealing with number 2. Right here. This basically deals with number 2. Hint, visualize the move on the number line. Do you end up on the right or left side of 0? Okay, let's take a look here. It says to visualize adding on the number line for the following example. On the number line, the following example has been provided below. Example, add using the number line. Okay, the first thing we would do is start at 0 and we would go to -7. Okay, now when you add 3, adding 3 means that you go back to the right. So you had stopped here at -7. So from -7 you go to the right 3. You go 1, 2, 3. And you end up here at -4. So -7 plus 3 is -4. Okay, now we scroll down here to number 2. We had -3 plus -4. So remember, they have the same sign. So you would add them together. So we'll visualize this on the number line first. So we'll go from 0 to -3. So we'll stop here at -3. But we have to add on another -4, which means we have to go 4 more places to the left. So we'll go 1, 2, 3, and end up here at -7. So that's how we end up with -7. Now it says let's try a few examples. Now we had 3 plus a -9. Okay, now we could use the number line, but what I want to show you all is this here. Whenever you're adding and you have different signs, what you could do is this. We could do regular subtraction. Take the larger number and make it positive minus the smaller number. 9 minus 3 is 6. Okay, now your final answer is going to have a 6 with it, whether it's going to be positive or negative. To determine if it's positive or negative, look at both of these numbers. Which one of these numbers is furthest away from 0? We know -9 is further away from 0 than 3. So we would take the sign of the -9. So our final answer here would be -6. Okay, now let's go to number 4. I want to do number 4 before I do 2 and 3 because number 4 is similar to number 1. We have -8 plus 5. We have two numbers that had different signs added together. So taking what I showed you before, we'll just take 8 minus 5 like we would do regular subtraction, and that gives us 3. So we know our answer is going to have a 3 in it. Now to determine if it's positive or negative, we look at both numbers and ask ourselves, which one of these numbers is furthest from 0? The -8 is further from 0 than the 5, so our final answer would be negative. Now, let's go back to number 2. These have the same sign, so we would just add them together. 12 and 3 we know is 15, and we would carry over the sign that it has. So it would be -15. Now, number 3. Same thing. We're adding two numbers with the same sign. So 5 and 11 is 16, and we'll carry our negative. Okay, now we scroll down here. Number 5, it tells us to add using a number line. So what we would do is this here. We would start, let's just go to -3. We'll start at -3. Now it asks us to add 9, so that means we need to go 9 units to the right. So we will start here at 3. We'll go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And I'll put an arrow to indicate that's where we're going to stop at. So we stop at positive 6. So our final answer here is just 6. Okay, now, I jumped down a little too far. Okay, now we go to number 6. We had negative 2 plus a negative 7. Now in the previous problems, we know whenever we add with the same sign, we should get that number with the sign. So we'll say 2 plus 7 is 9, and we will carry the sign over. But let's prove that it is negative 9. So let's start here at negative 2. Now we want to add negative 7, so that means we must go 7 units to the left from negative 2. So we will go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 units. And put our arrowhead here. And we ended up at negative 9. Now, we scroll down here. If A is a number, then negative A is the opposite of A. So whenever you add the opposite, a number to its opposite, it equals 0. A plus negative A is 0, and negative A plus A is also 0. So we look here at number 7. 18 plus negative 18 is 0. Negative 64 plus 64 is also 0. You're adding opposites together and it always gives you 0. Now we have adding several signed numbers or adding integers. Okay, first of all, if you notice here, we have our signs here are all addition. So remember when I taught you all the commutative property of addition. It doesn't matter the order you add in, you will end up with the same number if it's all addition. So why don't we put all the numbers that have the same signs together? So we could put 5 plus 12 plus negative 3 plus a negative 14. Now 5 plus 12 we know is 17 plus negative 3 plus a negative 14 is a negative 17. Now 17 plus negative 17 is 0. So that's your number 1. Now we go here to number 2. Now we want to do the same thing. This is still all addition. So we'll put all of the numbers with the like signs together. So we add negative 7 plus negative 5 plus a negative 6. And then we will have plus 3 plus 10. Negative 7 plus negative 5 is negative 12 plus a negative 6 plus 3 plus 10. Negative 12 plus negative 6 is negative 18 plus, we could do 3 plus 10 is 13. Now again, we had negative 18 and 13. We know we're going to subtract. We know 13 from 18 will give us 5. But we look here. We look at the distance from 0. Negative 18 is a further distance from 0 than positive 13. So we would take the sign of the negative 18. So it'll be negative 5. Now we scroll down here to section C. It says solving problems by adding signed numbers. We can use adding signed numbers to solve real-world problems by following the 4-step problem-solving process, which we have not done yet. So let me scratch this off. But we can go through these problems here. It says example set B. Write an addition problem and then solve. If the temperature was a negative 7 degrees Fahrenheit at 6 a.m. and it rose 4 degrees by 7 a.m. and then rose another 9 degrees in the hour from 7 to 8 a.m., what was the temperature at 8 a.m.? So first of all, we start off with a negative 7 degrees Fahrenheit. Now it tells us it rose 4 degrees. So that means we would add 4 degrees Fahrenheit. And then it says, and then rose another 9 degrees. So that means we add 9 degrees Fahrenheit. And they want to know what was the temperature at 8 a.m. Now just going through this problem, just to be proper here. We start off with a negative 7 degrees Fahrenheit. And we went from 6 a.m. to 8 a.m. And our question asks us what was the temperature at 8 a.m. That's why we added the 4 and the 9. So we will add this. First, let's add the numbers that have like signs. So we will have negative 7 degrees Fahrenheit, 4 degrees, and 9 degrees will give us 13 degrees Fahrenheit. Now we could do regular subtraction. 7 from 13 will give us 6, and we know that would be 6 degrees Fahrenheit. Now we look here, the distance from 0. We know 13 is a further distance from 0 than negative 7 is, so we will keep this positive. Okay, now we go on to problem 2. You had a balance of $55 in your checking account. You accidentally wrote a check for $62. Your bank charged you $25 for the overdraft. Once you realize your error, you make a $100 deposit. What is the new balance in your checking account? So first of all, we have $55. That's how much you had initially in your checking account. Now you accidentally wrote a check for $62. So you know whenever you write a check and someone cashes it, you will subtract that out of your account. Your bank charged you $25 for an overdraft. So you know whenever you're charged an overdraft, that's also money taken out of your account. Once you realize your error, you make a $100 deposit. Whenever you deposit money in an account, it's an addition for you. Okay, so now what we could do is this here. It says, what is the new balance in your checking account? So let's put the positive numbers together. So we will have $55 plus $100. And then what we could do is this here. We could say plus this negative $62. And then plus this negative $25. Now the reason why I put this plus negative 62 and plus a negative 65 is because we're actually still adding these values to what we have here. So 55 plus 100 is $155. And then we will add negative $62 plus a negative $25, which will give us a negative $87. Now, we know 87 from 155, we could go off to the side. We cannot take 7 from 5, so we'll borrow 1 from this 5, make this a 4, and this 5 will become 15. 15 minus 7 is 8, and we know we cannot subtract 8 from 4, so we'll take 1 from this 1 and make that a 0, and this 4 will become a 14. 14 minus 8 is 6. So our final answer here is $68. Now again, just to reiterate this, I tell you all in class that you must write your final answer in a sentence. So I'm going to go back and write this final answer as a sentence. Okay, now for number 1 here, we would say for number 1, since it ended up at 6 degrees Fahrenheit, what we will write this as is the temperature at 8 a.m. is 6 degrees Fahrenheit. And that will be your final answer for that problem. Now for this problem here, you will write the new balance in the checking account is $68. And that is the final answer here.